Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of People Call Me Will. This is episode 4, and I kind of want to do things a little differently as the topic is going to be surrounding more of a question. So, I want to give everybody the question now, which is, am I a good friend? So, please take a few moments to just think about like what that means for you, how you view friendships, how you view yourself as a friend, all of those good things, and please stay tuned for the rest of the episode. Okay, y'all, so let's get into this topic question. Am I a good friend? It's something that I used to and still do. There is not going to be a used to in this sense. Everything is like still very much a thought in my head. Am I a good friend? What does that mean? How do people view me as their friend and vice versa? All of those things literally are in my head all the time. Sorry if that was like a little mumbly, rumbly, didn't make any sense, but friendship is something that I value a lot, and it has been something that has kind of grown for me because in the past, I never really thought about friendship that much. I kind of always just had my little group of friends since, of course, I'm not that, I'm in my 20s, so back in school, high school, middle school, I always had like the same friends. I didn't change my friends, and we all just had a vibe. Like we all had our, I don't want to say parts or roles, but we just all assumed our positions when it came to our little groups. So I never gave the idea of relationships much of a thought. I had a very interesting I have a very interesting childhood in the sense of how I just view people and all of those things. So, anyways, yeah, I never gave the idea of friendships really much of a thought up until I got to, let's say, probably college. College was my era of trying to figure out who I am, who am I becoming, who I want to be, what will be for me. And my character, I feel like, went through the most development during that time. So I transferred colleges, by the way. I went to like a 2 year community college. So the second half of my college experience is when things really started to get very different and very hard in terms of me creating my own, like me becoming a different person. And so I would say I was around the age of like 23 years old. So that was about 5 years ago now. And yeah, I got introduced, let me just back up really quick. I left home. I'm from a really small town. So I left all of my friends, all of my family, and everything like that. And basically moved to a place where I didn't have any friends. I didn't know anybody. I have a cousin. I have a cousin that lives in the city that I went, but like in terms of friends, I was starting from scratch. And it was such a challenge for me because I never really considered myself an introvert until I moved. Back at home, I was very extroverted, very just outgoing, fearless, if you will. And I feel like a lot of those qualities I still have of myself, but they've just kind of transformed. But yeah, back at home, I was super just extrovert and everything. And then once I moved, things got very interesting because I became very closed in and more so of anything shy. I became really shy, and that is something that has always been a part of me. I do tend to get shy around new people, and it takes a lot for me to kind of muster up my courage to, be out there. But eventually, I did get out there. So, anyways, I move. I have 3 new roommates that I don't know them. So there's also that barrier, like learning how to communicate with people that I just didn't know at the time. And then I also was working at Walmart actually, and learning how to navigate working with new people in a new culture as well. Like I moved to a bigger city, so it was really different. And I was in the hood too, by the way. Like it wasn't like no Walmart that was all nice and stuff like that. It was rough. It was actually one of the few Walmarts that got like raided during like the protesting and stuff. So we were in, it was like the hood. It was deep. So yeah, I was very, very introverted at that time. I closed myself off more so than anything. I just got really scared. But eventually I started to climb out as I met people at school. I became cool and close to with my roommates. I made work friends, and then I joined the gym and started doing like Zumba, uh, the whole 9 yards. I got Zumba licensed. I was out there networking, and I became the same person in a sense how I was back at home because I got comfortable and all of those things. So where does this all play into the friendship conversation? I'm giving you guys this little bit of a back piece of me because this is like essentially a characteristic. These are characteristics of who I am and the type of people that I was attracting as well in terms of creating a friend circle and friends and stuff like that. So let's fast forward a little bit into when I became self conscious and insecure in my ability to make friends and be a friend. When this all kind of fell through for me. Let's fast forward to after college. We are post college. I'm working now and I have a little bit more time for people, which I really want to kind of make sure that we're emphasizing time because what I've realized with any type of friendship, there has to be some time set aside if you want like that relationship or whoever, just in general, if you want that thing to work. So anyways, going back to what I was saying, time. So I had a little bit more time, although yes, I was working full-time hours essentially. I was still at Walmart actually maybe for another 8 months until I got more of like a 9 to 5 job. But anyways, my hours at Walmart typically were 3 to 11. I was always like an afternoon person, which I love that, by the way. Now I'm more of a morning person, but definitely I prefer working in the afternoon. So I would have all this time in the day, or not all this time, but that's where most of my time to do things were. So I was doing like Zumba and still being social, but not as social as I feel that I could have been to some of the people that I was friends with at that time. And I think that those people began to kind of feel this type of energy that was not true or not what I was meaning to put off, but they began to feel as if like I didn't really care about them, I didn't like them. And this was what was told to me when I was confronted about me not spending time and also putting effort, which is also another thing that should be emphasized in terms of any relationship. Yet again, this is more specific to friendships. The effort side of things was not being reciprocated as well. Those two things are super important, and I think that when, especially as we get older and we are adults and our schedules change and become more complex, those are two things that both parties or both sides need to be understanding of, regardless if you make a lot of time or a little bit of time or put in a lot of effort or a little bit of effort with each other. You kind of have to be on the same page. There has to be compromise, of course, but for the majority of like friendships to work, in my opinion, I believe that, there has to be a common ground. There has to be an understanding of what you're able to give out more than honestly receive. And I feel like this is a time where I failed as just a communicator, as someone who went to school for this. I could not show up, like I couldn't show up for myself, and I didn't verbalize my own boundaries, in which I didn't even understand that I put up for myself, because in that moment, or in that time of my life post college and everything, I didn't have a lot of mental capacity for anything too dramatic. And I think that a lot of my friend groups at that point, there was always some bullshit, something going on that I just didn't really want to be a part of, or any, like, get too deep into it. And so a lot of times I found myself not really being available, although I was available. Like, if my friends would hit me up and be like, "Hey, do you want to go out tonight? Do you want to go eat this and that?" I'd be like, "Yeah, sure." But I think in a lot of ways I was subconsciously just protecting my peace, because so much just toxicity was really flowing around me in a lot of friend groups, friends that was back at home as well. Like, there was just so much. And so I think that these were little things that I was doing, but I don't want to excuse myself, because I never communicated that to my friends. So yeah, these are just, the things that I was subconscious about, and also a little insecure about, without even really knowing why I was insecure, when it came to my ability to be as a friend, when I'm talking about insecurities, because one of my insecurities did turn into my ability to create relationships with people, because of the feedback that I received as a friend, which I just could not understand. But again, like, I feel in a really good place now, since I have moved once again and can kind of just really fully digest who I am and work on myself. And now I can have this type of a conversation without, I guess, being so triggered, because it was a very triggering topic for me, because I didn't understand why I was being perceived as a bad friend, or someone who was being low maintenance, and all of these just ridiculous things that I just didn't understand, didn't want to understand. I was a little angry, just all of the things, right? So I kind of want to just give you guys kind of where it went wrong for me, or when things kind of took like a downfall in my area of friendship, and how I showed up for as a friend, and how I took it all in. And that leads me to the next thing that I kind of want to talk about, which really played a big part of my mental health. And my mental health, I think, started to decline a little bit, was social media. Social media became something that I kind of depended on to validate my opinions of myself, and to reject other people's opinions of me. I started to use social media, whether it was Instagram quotes, TikTok videos of someone with a mindset that I like, or that it's validating my feelings. I was only looking at my experience with my friends and as a friend through the lens of like this one track mind, and it became very toxic. I began to repost it. I began to really feed into it. Yet once I think I started taking social media breaks, and also I started just being very honest, I started praying, I started journaling, I just started really doing the work. I feel as a friend, I started taking accountability for my actions, and that is when I started to see the other side of those Instagram quotes, TikTok videos, Facebook quotes, or I started to see just another perspective. And so I began to do this thing called apologizing to people who I hurt unintentionally. And I think why I'm so passionate about this, and why this matters so much to me, is because a lot of the things that we do, and even from as a child, are very unintentional. And obviously, that's not the case for everyone. there is a mean girl in every story. There is a villain in all of those things. But for the most part, I really think that a lot of the mistakes that we make or the things that we do, especially in relationships, are unintentional, and we just don't understand why. And for someone like me in that moment, doing things that I'm not sure, I'm just not, emotionally smart in some ways. And I took to social media to try to help me figure out what was wrong with me, whether or not it was these coaches reaching out. They see that I'm in their algorithm, so they want to reach out and, do these consultations and talk about like these issues that I personally don't think that they could help me with. Just because mental health is such a serious thing, and perception and judgment, all these things are very, very serious topics, and it just is no place for social media, in my opinion. And that's when I kind of started to take my breaks. I needed to get off of social media. I needed to clear my algorithm of all of this fucking mental health, or not mental health, but like these just quotes that literally just will validate however you're feeling. Not saying that they're not good quotes, like they're great quotes, and I wish that these, whoever making these quotes, they start putting out poems and books and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's nothing for the quotes, but to just take like those sentences and just use it to meet your agenda or whatever you got going on in your head that may not be the healthiest. Like, you kind of have to, again, take accountability and just know that not everything is like that may be going on. Like, you may need somebody to kind of set you straight. Like, don't be afraid of that as well. And I think that that's something that I had to kind of go through, is have somebody to straighten me out, because for a long time I was wailing, I was crying out, and no one was like buying it. No one was putting up with me. When I personally, in certain ways, I really needed help, and I really wish that people were there for me. But I get also like, not my problems aren't everyone else's problems, and I learned that, and now I work on it every single day to not trauma dump or put, my issues on other people, because that is something that developed out of this whole social media / gaining the insecurity of being a friend. I started to dump it on other people, and now I don't think I do that anymore, just in general, because I'm just very conscious of it. But now I've noticed that doing that also kind of makes me seem repulsive, or reclusive, not repulsive, reclusive. And so I'm trying to now figure out how to not give too much, but not withhold myself completely. So yeah, I definitely just wanted to touch on the social media aspect of all of this, because it plays a huge part in how we view ourselves as friends and how we view others, and honestly who we choose to be our friends as well. I think social media does that as too. Social media for sure creates these, I don't want to say characters, but for the sake of just this conversation, characters, avatars of people, and we aspire to be like them, or we are like them, and we only want then now we become very choosy, and we want the same people around us. And I just personally don't think that works. I think that we all cannot be the same. We all cannot be like we can be like-minded in certain things, especially when it comes to morals and values and the things that we really believe in wholeheartedly. But when it comes to trivial things, surface level shit, like, we don't have to like the fucking same thing. And I just feel like for a long time, through meeting people, befriending people, unfriending people, I was given this, I felt like I had this expectation, or there was this expectation to do what everyone else was fucking doing. And I'm just not that kind of person. I would consider myself, different. I don't know what that means, but like, I don't think like everybody else. And I thought that was okay, but some of these friend groups that I had got into, if I wasn't this way, I was like a lame. So I for sure think that social media like fuels that, and it's just not fair because I consider myself to be a cool ass person, and because I don't fit every single bubble of some of these avatars, these characters, such as being a yes girl or being, I don't know, whatever it is. I don't fit the club, and I feel like that's kind of like what happened to me in some of my friendships. And I've also been told by, other friends or people that I used to talk to that I've set that standard. Like, they don't feel good enough for me. And first of all, that's just crazy. That's just like me talking on the side. Like, that's just crazy. I don't expect anything from anybody, but that was what was told to me, and I was so taken aback. And so obviously I reflect on it and all of these things, but to some extent, when you're looking at it in that lens, you kind of have to make sure that you do have a boundary or a standard set for yourself, but also look at it as like, make sure that you're not requiring somebody. And I for sure took a long thought about like, did I ever come off as if I was requiring that person to be of certain standard? And to be fair, maybe it's possible because of the friend groups that I had adopted. I adopted some of their ways of life or how they create their friends, which just didn't work for me. I tried to do it their way, and this is why I kind of spiraled into this really big, having this insecurity of, am I a good friend? Because I tried to adopt the ways of how other people make their friends or socialize, and it just didn't work for me. I found that out the hard way, though. And it's okay, because you know what? We're here and we're talking about it. So I just kind of wanted to talk also about the whole spectrum of being a low maintenance or high maintenance friend. That is also quoted a lot on social media, on both sides. And I just don't like either or at times. Although, yes, it's so much easier to kind of throw yourself in that low maintenance category just because we're getting older. Our schedules are complex. Not everyone aligns, and that's completely fine. But for others, it is not okay. And I'm not going to use an extreme version, but other people do require more time, or that's their love language. That's what they like. They like to give. They like to give and receive. There are people that are like that. And I don't want to, I guess, disqualify their feelings. But then again, on the low maintenance side, I feel like that is the argument for a lot of people who do want to kind of fall into that low maintenance category. They say that the high maintenance people do too much, and the high maintenance people say that low maintenance friends are bad friends because they don't try or they don't put effort. And like I said, going back to the time and effort conversation, those two things have to be talked about or have to be communicated somehow to where the other person understands that either you don't like to hang out that much or you like to hang out a lot. Now, the issue that I personally have with the whole low maintenance and high maintenance thing is there becomes this sense of like entitlement that happens to where certain people may give you this kind of like ultimatum as if like, all right, well, like, I'm going to stop being a good friend or the type of friend, whatever, the relationship's going to just fucking change. That's the problem that I have with it, is just like, instead of just coming to common ground and just accepting each other for who we are, then no, we say, I'm going to give her a break because she just being funny acting, or she's being weird, she don't hang out with this person no more. I'm going to give her a break, or my love and all, like, whatever you got going on is going to like minimize because they don't feed what I got going on. Or vice versa, people will be like, oh, she just be doing too much. She's clingy. She's annoying. She's this. Like, I can't be there for you. Like, you just require too much. That's not fucking fair either. because now you're looking at this person like they are this maniac almost. They're hyper, and that's probably just how they just show up. They just want to be in your face. They love you. They are lovers. And we have to recognize that as well. Even though, yes, life is getting harder and harder, I feel like, as we get older. And I really regret myself saying, like, oh, I want to be a grown up. I want to drive. I do, because it gets harder and harder. And the leaks sometimes seem to get higher and higher, whatever. So my whole point to that is, like, just be a little bit nicer and a little bit more considerate of each other's time and effort and what we're able to give and what we're able to put out. And I'm sure people there are the excuses of, well, like, you should try harder, or like people just don't have the time, like they just got to understand. And like I said, that's why you open your mouth and you talk about it, even if it's just a brief conversation. Yeah, girl, I'm gonna just let you know right now, like, I like to be in the house by a certain time. Like, I don't really like to be outside like that. Or, girl, you like to drink? Because I go out all the time. Like, I'm a big partier. Like, just start assessing each other in that way, rather than being like, she never want to go out. She never want to go out. Like, I can't, like, I'm just about to cut her off at this point because she just doesn't give. That's like, no, that's unacceptable. To me, sorry. Or, you have the other side too, where it's like, dang, he or she is all up on me. Like, it's just getting too much. And, I just don't think the low maintenance, high maintenance argument really is fair. It works. I'm not going to sit here and say it doesn't work. I just don't think it's fair to write people off because they don't necessarily meet your criteria. Just, I don't know, like, let's try to work around it. Let's just try to figure it out. Maybe that's just a little too much for a lot of people. People don't have time for that, and I get it. I know that there are people who don't got time for trying to figure out how to make friendships and relationships work these days, and I know that there are people who are going to bend over and backwards to try to make some shit work. And for me, I think it just depends on circumstances of situations. But, like, obviously, if you're just meeting somebody and you already kind of know it's not going to work, then fine. But, like, I'm talking about, like, if you got years of friendships and stuff with people and you just want to, like, not try to, I guess, figure each other out as you're growing and stuff, I don't know, it's unfortunate. It's just unfortunate. That's all I'm going to say about it. Although I do understand when enough is enough. I don't want to take that part of the conversation out as well, because I'm not saying that this should be like a push and pull to where it's toxic. I'm just saying that maybe if we kind of talked more about the shit that really mattered, especially when it comes to how we give and take, then things would just be a little bit different. I think we would have more relationships. People would be able to stand each other a little bit more. Obviously, that's my utopia. That's my perfect world, is world peace. I know that's never going to happen, but yeah, I think that is just something that is worth thinking about when, you have your friends who may categorize you as low maintenance or high maintenance, or vice versa. Like, just think about that a little bit. So whether you consider yourself a low maintenance or high maintenance friend, or if you even give that even one thought of your day, I guess what I want to stress is like, from what I've learned throughout my relationships and friendships and talking and healing, is that time, effort, accountability, communication, and and of course, importantly, compromise are super important and have been, huge factors that I keep going back to on why either things work or don't work with, my past friendships or the ones that I currently have. I just want to stress that, maybe it is something worth thinking about, or maybe reflecting on in your free time, just because I've experienced both sides of the coin, being what I would consider a good friend and also not being a good friend. I don't want to say a bad friend because I just feel like that's a bit, I don't know. It just depends. I feel like a bad friend should be reserved for a bad person or like someone who does something really bad. So I would just say someone who's just like not so great or isn't a good friend. But that's just my take on it and my look on it. I definitely am very interested in what you guys have to say about this because it is something that is talked about so much, or I see a lot on social media if you fall into that algorithm. And I want to end this podcast with the question now. Obviously, am I a good friend? But also, why is it hard to make friends now in this generation, in this social media climate? Unless, I mean, again, if you don't have any issues making friends or keeping friends and stuff like that, I hope that you can prove me why it's actually easy to make friends. I would love to hear that side of the coin as well. Yeah, this was so excited. I was like really happy to talk about this. Sorry if I'm mumbling all over my words, but this has been a conversation that I've been wanting to have for a really long time. Hopefully, I can elaborate on this even more with someone here to talk about another perspective because I'm all about perspective and just genuinely listening or seeing what other people have to say about the same thing. It's always been interesting to me. But yeah, I'm going to end it here, everyone. It was really good talking. I really enjoyed today's discussion once again. So yes, talk to you guys soon. Bye.